Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm Kerry. Today I'll be showing you how to crochet a little boy in German national dress, which was another request I've received. When crocheted using 8-ply yarn and a 3mm hook, this one, the size is 8 centimeters by 19 centimeters or 3 inches by 7.5 inches. The medium boy crocheted using 4-ply crochet cotton and a 1.5mm hook is 5.5 centimeters by 13 centimeters or 2.25 inches by 5 inches. This small boy crocheted using 2-ply crochet cotton and a 1mm hook is 4 centimeters by 10 centimeters or 1.5 inches by 4 inches. I'll be using Catona cotton today, so the size will be a bit smaller than this one, but I'll tell you the size at the end of the video. I'll be using Catona cotton today. I've got 390 Poppy Rose, 208 Yellow Gold, 189 Royal Orange, 254 Moon Rock, 110 Black, 173 Bluebell. I'll need a tiny bit of 106 Snow White, and I've got 105 Bridal White. I've got sewing thread and a needle to stitch it together and a small amount of embroidery, a darning needle to weave in the ends, scissors, and a 2.5mm crochet hook. I'll start on the head. I've got my 105, the Bridal White, and I start with 4 chain. For row 1, I work 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. A single crochet is a double crochet using UK terms. For a single crochet, put the hook into the stitch the second from the hook and bring up a loop. Put the yarn around the hook and take the hook with this yarn at the end through both loops. Then we work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. A double crochet is a treble using UK terms. You put the yarn around the hook, hook into the stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook, take the hook with this yarn through 2 loops, yarn around the hook, hook with the yarn at the end through the remaining 2 loops. Then we work 1 single crochet into the last stitch. That just gives it a little bit of shaping for the chin. For row 2, we start with 1 chain and turn. We work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 2 single crochet into the last stitch. For row 3, we start with 1 chain and turn. We work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, then 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and 2 single crochet into the last stitch. For row 4, we start with 2 chain and turn our work. We're going to work 2 half double crochet into the first stitch. A half double crochet is a half treble using UK terms. For a half double crochet, put the yarn around the hook, hook into the stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook and take the hook with this yarn at the end through all the loops. We need 1 more half double crochet into that stitch. Then we work 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch, we'll work 2 half double crochet into the last stitch and we'll have 9 stitches. So after our 2 half double crochet in the first, work 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch. I've got 1 stitch left. I work 2 half double crochet into the last stitch. For row 5, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of our 9 stitches. For row 6, we start with 1 chain and turn. We work 2 single crochet into the first stitch. Then we'll work 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch. And work 2 single crochet into the last stitch. For row 7, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 11 stitches. For row 8, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 9, we start with 1 chain and turn. We're going to work a joined single crochet over the first 2 stitches. For a joined single crochet, put your hook into the first stitch and bring up a loop. Hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop. We've got 3 loops on the hook. We put the yarn around the hook and take the hook with this yarn at the end through all the loops. Then we work 1 single crochet into each stitch till we have 2 left. And we work a joined single crochet over the last 2 stitches. For row 10, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. Now that's the head done, except for the neatening row. For the neatening row, we start with one chain and we're going to work one single crochet into each stitch around. So we just find a suitable place not too far from the edge to put our hook and work a single crochet. If you have trouble with your neatening row, it can be better to use a size or two smaller hook. So I'll continue working my neatening row and I'll be back when I get near the end of the row. Once we get back to the beginning of the row, we join with a slip stitch in the top of the first stitch. So this stitch here, we put our hook into the stitch, bring through a loop and take it straight through the loop on the hook, and we fasten off. And that's the head done. I'm going to start on the hair now. So I've got my 254, the moon rock, and I start with 12 chain. For row 1, I miss the first chain and work one single crochet in each remaining chain. And then I work 7 chain. Now that's for the first strand of hair. Now we miss the first chain and we work one slip stitch in each remaining chain. So we put our hook into the stitch, bring through a loop and take it straight through the loop on the hook. And we work a slip stitch in each remaining chain. And then we turn the single crochet, the row of single crochet round, and we work a slip stitch into the first stitch. And that's the first piece of hair done. And then all of our other pieces of hair until the last one are worked the same. We start with 4 chain. We miss the first chain and work one slip stitch in each remaining chain. And then slip stitch in the next stitch along the bottom, and then 4 chain. Miss 1 chain and work one slip stitch in each remaining chain. and slip stitch in the next stitch along the bottom. And we repeat that till we have the one left. So 4 chain, miss 1 chain and work a slip stitch in each remaining chain. And slip stitch in the next stitch along the bottom. And I'll just repeat that. Now I've just slip stitched into the second last stitch, then I work 7 chain for the last strand of hair. I miss the first chain and work 1 slip stitch in each stitch to the end. And then slip stitch into the last stitch and fasten off. And that's the hair done. Now I'll work the hat next. I'll need the yellow, orange and red. Now for the hat, I'm starting at the top here, so I've got my 208, the yellow gold, and I start with 6 chain. For row 1, I work 2 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Then 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch. And I work 2 single crochet into the last stitch. For row 2, I start with 1 chain and turn. I'll work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch, 2 single crochet into the last stitch, and I'll have 9 stitches. So work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, then 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch. And work 2 single crochet into the last stitch. For row 3 we start with 1 chain and turn. We'll work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch, and 2 single crochet into the last stitch. We'll have 11 stitches. So work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, then 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch, and work 2 single crochet into the last stitch. And that's the yellow part done. I'm going to join in my orange now, but I'm not going to fasten off the yellow. I'm going to leave it for the neatening row. So this is the 189, the royal orange, and I'm going to join it in, but I'm going to leave a long tail at the beginning for the neatening row. So I put a loop over my hook and take it through the yellow loop and pull it tight. And then I work 1 chain with the orange and I turn my work. Now I need this long loop at the beginning on the other side for my neatening row, so I'm going to work over the top of it to take it to the other side. So for row 4 we work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, working over the orange, then 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch, and work 2 single crochet into the last stitch. Now this orange tail is at the other side for the neatening row. For row 5 we start with 1 chain and turn, and we'll work 2 single crochet into the first stitch, then 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch, and work 2 single crochet into the last stitch. Now that's the orange done, but I'm not going to fasten it off because I'll use this for this side of the neatening row. I join in the 390, the poppy rows now. I just join it in normally. I don't need a tail for it because I'll use the tail from the end. And I work 1 chain and turn. I'm going to work over the top of this small tail just to give me less to weave in the ends. Now I work 3 single crochet into the first stitch. Then work 1 single crochet into each stitch to the last stitch. And work 3 single crochet into the last stitch. And that's the hat done, except for the neatening row. I'm going to fasten the red off but not cut it, so it's a bit tangled, so I'll untangle it and then show you how to fasten it off. Now I've untangled the poppy rose, so I pull out a long loop and pass the ball of cotton through the loop and pull it tight. So that's fastened off. So I've still got my 3 colours joined on. Now I'm going to start the neatening row. I turn it over and I'm going to start with the yellow here, just where the yellow starts. So I put my hook into the work and bring up a loop of the yellow and work 1 chain. Now I'm going to work a slip stitch around my work, but if you prefer you could work a single crochet. If you worked a single crochet you could crochet over the top of the tails and you wouldn't have as much weaving in of ends, but I'm just going to work a slip stitch in each stitch around to just before the orange. So I just put my hook into a place not too far from the edge and work a slip stitch. Now I'm nearly to the orange. I put my hook in just at the top of the orange and I'm going to start working the orange. So I bring up a loop of orange and take it straight through the loop of yellow, and then I pull the yellow tight and I work orange just in those couple of stitches there. I've worked across the orange, now I join in the red. So just at the beginning of the red I put my hook and I bring my red through. And pull the orange tight, and then I start working my red around to the next part of the orange. And once I get to the orange, I bring up the orange and work a couple of slip stitches with the orange. And then I can fasten off all of the different colours. And that's the hat done. Now I'll start on these shorts now. I'm going to start just at the waist and work down, and then I'll do the straps. So I've got my 390, the poppy rose, and I work 8 chain. For row 1 I miss 1 chain and work 1 single crochet into each remaining chain. For row 2 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 7 stitches. Now we're going to start on the first leg. We start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the first 3 stitches. Then for row 4 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 3 stitches. And for row 5 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And that's the first leg done. We fasten off. For the second leg we miss the middle stitch and join in the next one, the third last stitch. And work 1 chain. We work 1 single crochet in the same stitch as a chain and then 1 single crochet into each of the last 2 stitches. For row 2 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 3 stitches. And for row 3 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. Now that's the bottom part of the shorts done, except for a neatening row. I'm going to work a neatening row of slip stitches around, so I start with one chain and I'll work a slip stitch in each stitch up to the corner. Now into this corner stitch here, I'm going to work one slip stitch, one chain and one slip stitch. And then I'll keep working like that, one slip stitch in each stitch along the flat parts, and into the corner stitches I'll work one slip stitch, one chain and one slip stitch. So I'll finish the neatening row and I'll weave in the ends, and then I'll be back and we'll do these straps. Now for the first strap, this one here, we join to the second stitch along on this side. And we work 15 chain. We miss the first chain and work one single crochet in each remaining chain. And slip stitch in the next stitch along the bottom. And fasten off. For the second strap, we join in the third last stitch. So this stitch here, and we work 15 chain again. We miss one chain and work one single crochet into each remaining chain. And slip stitch in the next stitch along the top of the shorts and fasten off. And those are the 2 straps done. We'll work this middle piece. I turn my work over and I join 4 stitches up. So this stitch here, and I work 3 chain. And I slip stitch into the 4th stitch up on the other side, and then I slip stitch into the next stitch up and turn my work to the right side, and I work 1 single crochet into each of the 3 stitches, the 3 chain, and slip stitch in the next stitch on the side of the strap and fasten off. And that's the shorts done. Now for the legs and socks, I start with my 105, the Bridal White, and I work 3 chain. For row 1, I miss the first chain and work 1 single crochet into each of the 2 remaining chain. For row 2, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each of the 2 stitches. For row 3, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 4, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And for row 5, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. Now that's the top part done. I'm not going to fasten off. I'm going to be using my cotton for the neatening row. I'm joining in the 173, the Bluebell, but I'm leaving a long tail to take to the other side for the neatening row. So I join it in and work 1 chain with the blue, and I turn, and I'm going to take the Bluebell to the other side for the neatening row. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch, but crocheting over the top of the Bluebell. So that's row 6. For row 7, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 8, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 9, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And for row 10, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And I fasten off the Bluebell from the end because I won't use it for the neatening row. Now I'm going to turn my work, and using the Bridal White I'm going to work a slip stitch around the top until I get to the Bluebell. So I'll bring up a loop of the Bridal White and work one chain and work a slip stitch in each stitch around. The top part. And then once I get to the Bluebell, I join it in and work a slip stitch in each stitch to the beginning of the row with it. And once I get back to the beginning of the row, I fasten off. And that's the first leg done. The second leg is worked the same. Using the Bridal White, I start with 3 chain. I miss 1 chain and work 1 single crochet into each remaining chain. For row 2 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 2 stitches. For row 3 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 4 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And for row 5 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And that's the top part of the leg done. I'll join in my Bluebell now. I'll leave a tail to work across to the other side for the neatening row. Again, I work 1 chain with the Bluebell and turn and work a single crochet into each stitch, crocheting over the top of the Bluebell to take it to the other side for the neatening row. For row 7 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each stitch. For row 8 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 9 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And for row 10 I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And I fasten off the bluebell at the end, and I turn my work and I start my neatening row with the bridal white just at the beginning of the bridal white. I bring a loop through, work 1 chain, and then work a slip stitch in each stitch around to where I start the bluebell. And then I join in the bluebell and work 1 slip stitch in each stitch to the beginning of the row. And once I get back to the beginning of the row, I fasten off. And that's the second leg done. I'll work the eyes and the shoes next. Now for the shoes, I've got my 110, the black, and I work 4 chain. I work 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook, 2 half double crochet in the next stitch, and 1 single crochet into the last stitch. And fasten off. And that's the first shoe done. The second one is worked the same. I start with 4 chain. I work 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook, 2 half double crochet in the next stitch, and 1 single crochet in the last stitch, and fasten off. Now for the first part of the eyes, I make a magic loop. There's lots of ways to make a magic loop. I just put the hook on my yarn, bring the short end over the hook and the long end over the short end to make a circle, put the yarn around the hook and bring my hook with this yarn at the end through the circle. Then I work 1 chain and work 2 single crochet into my circle. I pull the circle tight, so I take hold of the tail and ease the circle in as tight as I can, and I join with a slip stitch in the top of either the first stitch or the chain, wherever you can. Now I've got a little bit of stitching around the top of the white part, so I'm going to leave a tail to work the stitching, and I won't weave it in when I weave in the other ends. So that's the first part of the eye done. I'll work another one. I make a magic loop and work one chain and work 2 single crochet into my circle. I pull the circle tight and join with a slip stitch in the top of the first stitch. And fasten off, leaving a longish tail. Now I've got a little bit of white at the side of each eye. Now for the one, I join my white just after I've left the black. And I work one chain. Now I put my hook into the same stitch as a chain and bring up a loop. Then I put the yarn around my hook and put the hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, and yarn around the hook and take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops. Then I put the hook into that same stitch and bring up a loop, and put the yarn around my hook and take the hook with the yarn at the end through all the loops, and I fasten off. And that's the first eye done. For the second eye, I join 2 stitches before the end where I've got my yarn left attached. And I work one chain. I put my hook into the same stitch as the chain and bring up a loop. Then I put the yarn around the hook into that same stitch and bring up a loop, and put the yarn around the hook and take my hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops. Then I put my hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, and yarn around the hook and take the hook with the yarn at the end through all the loops and fasten off. And that's the second eye done. Now they'll face in different directions, and I'll stitch the black down the side to make them face different directions. Now for the shirt, I've got my 173, the Bluebell, and I work 6 chain. For row 1, I miss the first chain and work 1 single crochet in each stitch. For row 2, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each of the 5 stitches. For row 3, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each stitch. For row 4, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 5 stitches. For row 5, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 6, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch. For row 7, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each of the 5 stitches. And we have 2 more rows like that, 1 chain and turn and 1 single crochet into each stitch. And 1 more row of 1 single crochet in each stitch. Now we're going to start on the neck part. We start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. For row 11, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 2 stitches. For row 12, we slip stitch into the second stitch. So I'm working a slip stitch into the first stitch as well and then into the second stitch. Then I work 1 chain and work 1 single crochet into that stitch. And then for row 13, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into the stitch. And I fasten off. And that's the first side done. Now for the second side, we join the bluebell to the second last stitch and work 1 chain. We work 1 single crochet in the same stitch as the chain and then 1 single crochet into the last stitch. For row 2, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into each of the 2 stitches. For row 3, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into the first stitch. And for row 4, we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet into the stitch. Now we're going to start on a neatening row. So we start with one chain and we turn our work, and we'll work one slip stitch into each stitch down to this stitch here. So just down into that little area where the sleeve is going to fit, one slip stitch. Now onto where it bends out, I'll work a slip stitch into that stitch, and then I'm going to work one chain, and I'll work one single crochet into each stitch around until I get back evenly with where I've started the single crochet. So just where it starts bending in, we'll work one single crochet in each stitch down around the sides and bottom. I'm not worrying about making my corners point because it's going to be under the shorts anyway, so I'll just work a single crochet in them rather than the single crochet one chain and single crochet. Now I'm back to where it bends in. I'm going to work one slip stitch into each stitch to the top. Now if I didn't want a different colour collar, I'd work right around to the beginning of the row, but I'll use a different colour cotton for the collar, so I'll just work a slip stitch in each stitch up to the top. And I fasten off. Now I'll weave in those ends, and then I'll be back and we'll do the sleeves and the collar. Now for this first sleeve, we join in the second stitch down from the top. So just in here, our bluebell, and we work 13 chain. We miss the first chain and work one single crochet into each of the next 2 chain. One half double crochet into each of the following 3 chain. A joined double crochet over the next 2 stitches. So we put our yarn around our hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook, take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, then yarn around the hook into the following stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook and take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops. We've got 3 loops left on our hook. We put the yarn around the hook and take the hook with this yarn at the end through the remaining loops. Now we're going to work a joined treble over the next 4 stitches. We put the yarn around the hook twice, hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook, take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, then yarn around the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 more loops, and then we put the yarn around the hook twice, hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, then yarn around the hook, take the hook with this yarn at the end through 2 loops, yarn around the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 more loops. We've got 3 loops on the hook, and then we put the yarn around the hook twice, hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook, take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, yarn around the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 more loops, and we need one more. We put the yarn around the hook twice, hook it into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook, take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, yarn around the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 more loops. Then we put the yarn around the hook and take our hook with this yarn at the end through all the loops. And then we're going to join just where our work bends out, just in that corner stitch there. We join with a slip stitch and fasten off. And that's the first sleeve done. For the next sleeve, we join just where our work bends out, and we work 8 chain. We miss 1 chain and work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 chain. Then 1 half double crochet into each of the following 3 chain. We work 2 double crochet into the next stitch. That's a treble using UK terms. And we work 4 trebles into the last stitch. So we put the yarn around the hook twice, hook into the stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around the hook, take the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 loops, yarn around the hook with the yarn at the end through 2 more loops, then yarn around the hook with the yarn at the end through the remaining loops. We need 3 more treble into that last stitch. And then we join with a slip stitch to the second stitch down from the top. And fasten off. When we weave in the ends, we can weave the sleeve into the gap there a little bit more, and I'll weave in those ends before I work the collar, and I'll also work hands on the end of the sleeves. Now for the collar, I'm going to use the 390, the Poppy Rose, but you could use any contrast, a darker blue, a white, just any colour. You join just down from the top there, so I'll join in here, and you just work 1 slip stitch in each stitch back up to where it's even to the first join. And fasten off. And that's the collar done. For the hands, I've got my 105, the Bridal White, and I join it at the end of the sleeve. And work 2 chain, and I work 1 half double crochet in the same stitch as a chain, and fasten off. And the other hand has worked the same, just join in the end and work 2 chain and work 1 half double crochet in the same stitch as a chain, and fasten off. And that's the shirt and the hands finished. Now for the neck, I've got my 105, the Bridal White, and I start with 6 chain. For row 1, I miss the first chain and work 1 single crochet in each remaining chain. For row 2, I start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each of the 5 stitches. For row 3 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each stitch. For row 4 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each stitch. For row 5 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each of the 5 stitches. For row 6 we start with 1 chain and turn. We work a joined single crochet over the first 2 stitches. 1 single crochet in the next stitch and a joined single crochet over the last 2 stitches. For row 7 we start with 1 chain and turn. We work a joined single crochet over the first 2 stitches and a joined single crochet over the last 2 stitches. So the same stitch as the last part of the last joined single crochet in the last stitch. For row 8 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each of the 2 stitches. For row 9 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each stitch. And for row 10 we start with 1 chain and turn and work 1 single crochet in each stitch. Now that's the neck done except for the neatening row. We start with 1 chain and we work 1 slip stitch in each stitch around. And once we get back to the beginning of the row we fasten off. And that's the neck done. Now that's all the pieces worked. I'll weave in the rest of the ends and I'll be back and we'll put it together. And there's all the pieces. I've got the hat, the shirt, the shorts, the 2 legs, the neck, the shoes, the hair, 2 eyes and the head. The first things I'll do is attach the shoes at the bottom of the socks there. The flat bit goes along the bottom. I'll attach the hair to the head. It goes along the top. The hair and the head are even, unless you'd like your hair up a bit more. I'll embroider these markings on the shorts. I embroider 4 dots along the bottom and then the buckle things just at the side of the middle piece, and I'll embroider a white dot in the middle of the black of each eye. The next things I do is attach the eyes to the head. They go slightly under the hair. The black part goes towards the middle of the face. So in about there, I'll stitch them down, and then I stitch this black cotton down around the white to the corner there. And I'll attach the legs in under the shorts, like that. The next things I'll do is embroider the mouth and nose to the face, and I'll attach the shorts to the shirt. It goes just in there, and the straps go just over the top there, so just in like that. Next I attach the hat to the hair, about there, and I'll attach the neck in behind the shirt there, so just in there. The last thing I do is attach the head to the neck, just in about there. So I'll do that and I'll be back to show you the finished boy. And there's the finished boy. The size is 7.5 centimetres by 16 centimetres, or 3 inches by 6.25 inches. If you've liked my video, please like, subscribe and share. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest and Twitter. The details are in the description below, along with the details of my website where I have my patterns, the details of my Facebook group and the details of my Patreon. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.